Hey everybody, it's Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today we're going to have so much fun together. We're going to be painting this park scene with a red bench and a glowing lamppost in winter, step by step. I'm going to break down every technique, every color mix, every tool that you would use to create this for yourself, painting along with me at home. To help me do that is my husband, John.
Hello.
He is going to make sure that everything I'm teaching, demonstrating, every technique, every color mix, every tool, the camera zoomed in on it, you can really see what's going on because what you can see, you can generally follow along with and create for yourself at home. Also, in the description down below is a link to my website. It says traceable, and there's a link there. You don't have to be able to freehand this bench. I have a free traceable provided, and when we get there, I'll tell you all about how to use that and get that onto the canvas. But you're also welcome to use the traceables just to freehand if you want to use it as a reference or the painting as a reference. Either way is completely good. Everything is ready to go, so there's really nothing for you to do but get your paint, get your brushes, come back and meet me at the easel right now. I'm genuinely going to show you how to paint this. So on my easel today, I have a 12 by 12 stretch canvas. This is the classic cotton by Art Alternatives. I actually really like this canvas line. If you're looking for it, I do have it in my store. But any 12 by 12 that you're painting on today, and frankly, you can size this up and down easily because it's a square, so you can go smaller or bigger and keep the same aspect ratio of objects on the canvas. On my palette is Mars Black, Burnt Sienna, Phthalo Green, Cad Yellow Medium, Cad Red Medium, Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, again Burnt Sienna, Mars Black. Right here is Titanium White, and right here is Satin Glazing Liquid by Golden Artist Colors. I use this as a slow drying extender and glaze. It really makes a big difference, slowing down the drying time of acrylic paint and improving blendability and brushability. So I like that product quite a lot too, and I do recommend it. Shall we go step one and start having some fun? So I'm going to start out today with a 3/4 inch Princeton Select oval mop. You could do a 1 inch oval mop or this oval mop. Either of them is fine. Also be sure you have a towel for your lap so you can wipe the brush out. Sometimes that's nice to control water or paint loads. I'm going to come here and load a bunch of the glazing liquid in here. This is going to improve the blendability of my paint and slow down the drying time so I have a chance to really work it. I'm going to load a lot of white in here and get a smidge, just the smidgiest smidge of Cad Yellow. I'm going to come along a line here. I'm going to come along here. I'm going to go up, down, down, up, kind of down. I'm kind of creating a little distant bush line, down, down, down. You can use the traceable that's provided if you need help with object placement. I'm going to continue to brush this out here. It's very, very light. Oh my goodness, it's so
Yeah,
light.
very, very light.
Check the traceable for that line if you're having trouble seeing it. It will help you see it. Sometimes the traceable is nice as a reference because those objects, then their lines are already worked out for you. I'm kind of brushing this to the top. Just a nice, very light yellow. It's just a glow, just a little bit of a glow. So up, 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 down, 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 swoop, up, swoop, down, 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 and up. Then I'm going to get a lot more white onto my brush, a little more glazing liquid, and I'm going to get just a hint. And that's almost too much. There we go. Just the hintiest hint of blue. Tiniest hint of blue, and then I'm going to come up here
Tiny hit.
to my little corners here
Oop, I don't want to move that.
and very lightly blend in a little bit of the blue. Just kind of haloing around this little corner. Just a little bit of the blue. Really controlling how light it is. This is a very light, very pastel beginning.
Yeah.
I'm going to come down a little bit. And then we're going to just softly blend in. Brush, 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 brush. Even though we have so many little branches and so much going on in front of this guy here, this is a good way to start. And so what you have is just a hint of blue and just a hint of yellow.
Just a hint.
Just a hint. I'm going to rinse out. I don't want any paint in my brush. And now I'm going to come along and grab just a little bit of my ultramarine blue. Mix some phthalo blue into it. Barely, barely, barely. I'm going to come over here, get some white, and make a very light kind of blue here. A little bit darker than the other blue. Come again at the little corner here. Dusting it in. Just a light little corner of blue. This should look like just the beginning of light or just the end of light in the sky. Just a soft brushing.
Just a very light, light blue.
Yeah, it's easy to add color. It's hard to take color away.
That's good to, good way of looking at it.
Just brushing it across here. Very, very careful. And then we'll come over here and brush a little more blue in over here. In this little corner. Now to improve the softness of this, I'm going to take a clean, dry brush. This is a 1-inch oval mop. I'm going to very carefully brush through here, softening this transition. It's going to be a very delicate transition. Like dawn is delicate, this is going to be delicate. That's what we're going for. Brush that down until I move bush line a little bit. And there I go. Now I'm going to want to rinse out my brushes now that I just have my hint of blue and my little kiss of yellow. I'm going to rinse out my brushes and put them aside because what do I want to do after I use my brushes? I always want to wash them after every painting session. And this is a big class, so you're going to want to break your painting sessions up and not try to just power through the whole thing. You want to just pace yourself. Make sure this is a relaxing and good experience. So we'll be washing our brushes more than once during this journey. Now I'm going to grab my hairdryer and dry this thoroughly with my hairdryer. And when we come back, I'll show you our next step. Now I'm going to get into a bright. That's a square brush. This one is a number 20 Raphael d'Artagnan brush. And it's got hog bristles in the head, so it's a good dry brushing brush. I'm going to get it wet, and then I'm going to towel it off with my towel. And then I'm going to take a little bit of my blue over to my brown, smidge a little black into it. And I'm going to begin by painting in this little distant area. Come here, and I use the corner of my brush, tapping up and down to just create some little bushy edges. Just right along that little bush line. Paint that in. My line is going to be from almost the middle spot. Going to come up here to the halfway. And then sit up like a little little element up. That kind of shows us the distant walkway coming in. That's how far down we're going to take this color. It's okay if sometimes it's more brown or more blue. This one layers in. We're just getting the underpainting. What we're doing right now, with the exception of the sky, which is very finished, is called an underpainting. I'm just tapping the corner of my brush to create this little bush edge. And then working this in. Ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, Mars black. The blue keeps it very cool for winter. I'm just scumbling this in because this distant area is going to be very, very messy and out of focus. Just pulling that up here, up towards my little bush line that I had drawn in. my light colors. And again, anywhere in here that it's light and you're having trouble seeing the lines, you just grab that traceable and look at those anchor lines because that'll tell you what they are. I'm going to just come here and just tap up and down.
This is just a nice mid-ground kind of.
This is just the underpainting background. Just the thought of this in the background because it's distant and out of focus. We want all of our big, sharp, clear focus to be on our bench and our lantern, which is the story of the painting.
Little distant.
Yeah, but this tells us about the park that
Yeah.
these objects exist in.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Just kind of layer some of this in. Once I have it in, I can kind of darken it as I need to. So you can build up. And the other thing is on this little edge, you can also add back.
Right.
So you've got lots and lots of. I come to the corner whenever I'm doing close to the edge, even as I'm darkening it. I can always get a little glazing liquid to improve the flow of my paint. Getting some depth going in there.
Kind of crisscrossing those brushstrokes.
Crisscrossing them. We're going to be doing lots and lots of little brushstrokes through here. Just creating a kind of messy, brambly, bushy sense of things. Bring this around the edge. Bring that around the edge a little more. So now we have that part of the landscape laid out. I'm going to rinse out my brush. We're going to be much heavier on the ultramarine blue than the phthalo blue for this. The phthalo blue really is just for the kiss of sky.
Right.
Because winter skies can go really into those light aquas and those light glows. And now you can kind of see the blue and the glow now that this dark color is here, giving your eye something to adjust to. I'm take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and load it up on my brush and get some white. Maybe a little brown. Gray it. And we're going to paint the rest of this canvas this color. Just all of it. And look, I'm being like
Very brush.
brush. I'm more concerned about getting the color down initially than anything else. I can always go back and smooth out the
Basic. You're just getting some basic coverage.
just getting that basic coverage going. So the mix is ultramarine blue, a little burnt sienna, and some titanium white. Just making sure my canvas has good coverage. Now, once I have all of this in, I have what's called the underpainting in.
The underpainting.
Underpainting. This is the architecture by which the rest of the painting will hang and be built off of. Think of it as a framework. I put my brush down after rinsing it out, and I'm going to dry this thoroughly with my hair dryer because I want to be able to do a lot of detail work up here, and I don't want to be smearing wet paint. So let's dry it with our hair dryer. When we meet back, I'll show you what we do next.
All right.
So I'm going to get into my number 8 Raphael d'Artagnan round. This is a round brush. I'm going to go ahead and get it wet. And I'm going to get a little bit of my black and brown together. I'm going to come in here and add some little bushy, messy depth. Leave a little bit of that blue halo there. Darkening this up quite a bit. Messy, messy, messy.
Very messy.
As it is, it's messy like trees and bushes and just distant flora. I can be very scumbly with it. You can see it's darkening quite a lot. But staying quite cool and in winter values. You can see the depth and richness building up. But there's slight variance between like the black and blue. There's little bits of gray that kind of show through. We got our little gray haloing here, or blue-gray haloing. Now I'm going to go back into my little blue here. With my brush, I haven't rinsed it. Some white going. I'm going to come back with my brush and just sort of work some snowbank into this distant area. Slightly lighter one comes around through here. That sort of unevenness helps it feel like distant plants or...
And it does.
Little bits of shading. Rinse out. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of my yellow and white. Very light colors, light as the background. And I'm going to add little peaks of yellow through the bushes. See how that just makes it seem like dappled light?
Mm-hmm.
Rolling my brush so I've got somewhat of a point. Creating sort of nice dimensionality. Deep breath, let it out.
Yeah.
Gotta keep in our relaxed state of mind.
This is a this is one of the bigger projects.
Mm-hmm. This is
That's
one of the bigger, more in-depth projects.
it's good to, you know,
Pace
make
yourself.
pace yourself. Exactly.
I'm going to be pacing myself, and I'm going to let you know when I'm doing that in this class, so you have a sense of like where I'm taking breaks.
Well,
Um,
and some of those are
but I
externals.
go a long time, so I will remind you that I am,
Yeah.
so you remember that you need to. But what you need to do is when you start to feel tired, and the painting starts to get frustrating from your fatigue, not from like I'm trying to figure out this technique and it's a little bit frustrating, but like you're feeling fatigued, it's a good time to rest. Pop this up on the wall and just look at it quietly for a little bit. See what you like and what you want to change.
Or if it's just time to go get the kids like me, you can just pop it on the wall and look at it.
it, which is what I'm going to do when you go get the kids.
Is right.
I'm going to spend some time with it. Just making sure that there's a little bit of light coming through. Mm. Trying to make sure I make these shapes uneven and not too repetitive. Not too much there. It's actually pretty good. Let's call that a step. That was a little bit of work that we did there. When we come back, I'll show you what we do next in the dark background. Now I'm going to do another bunch of kind of dark work here. I'm going to take my burnt sienna and my phthalo green together, and I'm going to make a very dark, dark green. I'm going to, you almost can't see it, but it's a little bit of a green that's back here into the dark color. Just to pick up a little bit of it. I'm painting just the tops of some bushes. Little curved up and down strokes. This will start to show a little more when the snow gets on it. But believe it or not, on a well-lit painting, you can tell, like, even though they're colors that are similar in value of dark value, your eye will pick up on subtle, like, differences of green. And just a smidge, gosh, just a smidge of yellow into it. Just touching. And push, push, push. Push, 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 push. Oh, it's such a dark winter green, almost black, desaturated. Lots of desaturation in winter painting.
Yeah. I like that.
These don't go everywhere. They're not all the way across the back. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my burnt sienna and my phthalo blue together and make that kind of distant snow color. Add some snow to the top of your bushes. And that's how the tops of your bushes start to come into play. You can see them.
Yeah.
I like this brush because, I mean, look at what a hot mess it is. It's just being all wild and crazy. Its hairs are going every which direction.
Yep.
And I actually lean into that. A little bit right there. Painting in little distant moments. Distant moments. Distant little bushy snowbanks. Wiggle in some little. Just asking it to be a little more intriguing. Now I'm going to really, really rinse out. I'm going to take a little of my ultramarine blue and a little of my burnt sienna. Make a distinctive blue-gray that I'm going to glaze out. So I'm adding a lot of glazing liquid to it. I'm going to come here just as carefully as I can.
Yeah. Add some more sky stuff.
Add some more cool stuff. This is going to be kind of peeking in through a whole bunch of branches.
Oh, yeah. See.
And because they'll be densely packed together and collecting snow and all of that, they'll be darker than the rest of this. And I'm trying to, even though I'm going to just lace branches over this, trying to make sure that there's a nice, deep, cool element to it. Just a little bit of coolness there. Doesn't really need to go everywhere, but it's nice if it's there. I do want to dry everything. So let's dry this thoroughly, and when we come back, I'll show you what we do next. So I'm going to create my color with a little burnt sienna and ultramarine blue and a little Mars black. And I'm using a number 6 Raphael sepia round. We're going to start to put in thick and thin little branches. Sometimes it helps to put a little glazing liquid into it to improve the flow off the brush. Yeah, we're just creating lots of little brambles.
Gotta get the brambles in there.
Now it's okay for these lines to be rough.
Well, they're brambles.
Well, and they're distant and they're slightly out of focus.
Sure, yeah.
So it's all right for them to have, a rough affectation to them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm going to get a little more brown into my mix here. A little black. I'm going to come right here. Blazing liquid if I need it. This comes down a little bit in front of the bushes. There, just giving ourselves a little bit of a tree there. Just fill it up.
Good. Just growing that tree.
And the other trees around it. Just filling it up. Lots of little branches. Just keep making that go. Now I might grab another little bit of this.
Just getting all that forest in there.
Yeah, so much forest to get in for it to look like the winter forest that it is. You've got to really get in all the little branches. There's this guy right here. We're going to paint a little bit more considered tree coming from the base here. Just go, go, go. The trick is to try to paint a tangle. Just a little bit of a tangle. Just a little bit of a tangle. Just making a mess. It's a beautiful mess.
It is a beautiful mess.
That's what we're going for. It can give you a little bit of anxiety because when they're initially nodding in, right, for it to look the way you want it to look sometimes, you know, it takes a minute to trust that your brushstrokes, your trees are valid trees. I'm going to come here and add some more.
Your trees are valid trees.
Your trees are
Don't
valid.
let anyone else who tell you otherwise.
Getting some of those trunks in first. I like to add the glazing liquid just to improve the flow. And the mix is Ultramarine Blue, Mars Black, and Sienna. Just getting those little twiggles in. This one is a lot of work on your arm and wrist. Yeah.
Just gotta hold it up there. I see you bracing your arm.
Yeah, I am. I'm bracing my arm so I can do the little marks. I don't mind that my brush doesn't do the crispest, like even marks. I like it to like flare out a little bit and for there to be breaks and some of it to be dry brushing because it makes some of them feel more out of focus and some of them feel more in focus.
Just weaving it all in there, huh?
Just trying to make sure that they're just all in. This is very messy over here. Lots of little twiggles in the upper right. Just busy.
Yeah, it is. But it looks really cool when you kind of take a step back and look at it. It's like, ooh, there's a forest there.
Lots and lots of growth. Old growth, dead growth. A little more brown. A little brown. So it's a distant tree, but it has a little bit of brown on it. Pulls it forward just a smidge. Look at it grow.
Yep.
Making sure that the bushes look messy.
Yeah.
Putting in little bits of distance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a little of my white and phthalo blue. Paint some spots.
Bright lights coming through.
Some bright light coming through. Just a few little pops. Just little sparkles of light coming through. Sometimes they're big and sometimes they're small.
Mm-hmm.
They're just little touches. Just come through and we just touch it up. All right. We did a lot there.
Yeah.
That was a lot. Let's dry it. This is a good time. I'm going to stand up and stretch and walk around a little bit. It's a good time for you to stand up and stretch and walk around a little bit before we continue on. So let's stretch, stand up, do a little self-care, and then come back and meet me at the easel for the next step. Well, I hope you took a nice break. I took a chance to refresh my water bucket here with clean water. That's a good thing to do when you take breaks, is to take that opportunity to clean up your water so you have fresh water. I'm going to also put out a little more ultramarine blue paint. And I've got plenty of burnt sienna, but I might add some up there so that I have it for my color mixing, as you do. As you do, John.
As you do.
As we do. Find my brown. What? How am I? Well, this is just a weird game of turn the paint over and have it not be the color I'm looking for. Put a little of this out. Okay. So we're kind of set up there. And I'm going to go ahead, even though I'm on a wet palette, every once in a while I take a mister of water and real high I mist it and let it sort of come down on the paint. It just helps keep it fresh. And keeps it from going off.
Keeps it moist.
Moist. Now I'm going to take a number 8 Raphael d'Artagnan. I'm going to get it wet and wipe it off with a towel. Let's pull in some blue, smidge of burnt sienna. I'm going to grab a little white over here. Maybe a little more blue. I'm going to start to work this across here. I'll take a little darker blue. I'm going to be working through a couple values. That's too dark. I want to work through a couple values of blue, though.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Couple values?
Yeah, so that our snow has shadows and highlights. A little too light. So snow that's far away and in the shade, you want to do in kind of neutral colors like these blues here. And you can play with how light or dark it is. Just bringing it across. It's kind of relaxing. It's just a chill thing to do.
I know I just enjoy watching you paint sometimes.
Blue on blue.
Just, kind of builds up slowly and it's enjoyable. It's just relaxing.
Yeah, it does build up slowly. And I do like that part. You grab a little bit of burnt sienna over here. In kind of a dark color. And then let's come through here and add a little line of dark paint. This sort of implies a distant little path. And off this little tree here a little bit. And a little bit of that little kind of implied path coming forward. It's nice. It gets slightly lighter as it comes forward. But not too much lighter. A lot of times I mix in small amounts. If you notice, I grab a little bit of color and then mix it in, and grab a little bit of color and mix it in. So see how we're getting just little subtleties going. A little bit darker. And this is when we really start to cover the canvas and get that depth into it. Add a little more white into my mix here. And then on the top of this, I'm going to add a little bit of a highlight coming along the path. Grab a slightly lighter snow color, and I'm going to come to the top of my little bushes here. I like the snow a bit. It's still quite cool. It just gives it a little dimensionality. Just painting along. I'm using, you know what I forgot to say? I'm using my number 8 Raphael d'Artagnan.
You know, it's really easy to just kind
Round.
of get into the flow.
I just got into it,
Yeah,
and then
I
I
get it.
didn't do it. I'm sure that during this stream we'll have answered that question already during the premiere of it, where people are gonna be like, "What was the brush?"
But yeah, and you like that one because it does multiple things.
I very much enjoy these brushes. They're high quality. They hold up well against the acrylic paint. Not every hog brush holds up well against acrylic, but these do. And they really let me get into what I'm doing, and I'm not fighting the brush to get it done. Some of that is my experience, and some of that is the tool. Pulling this forward, giving this all a little bit of a snowbank. Little burnt sienna. Start to pull some dark shaded areas down here. And I get a little bit of light going in it. A little more blue. Sometimes I twirl my brush to get the paint off. Twirl your brush to get the paint off. There we go. Just adding a little more blue. It's kind of mixing in these little shadow colors. See, it just creates a little dimensionality up there in the front. We could do this with a bigger brush, but I like the shortness of the brush stroke with this one.
It really builds the little
Little bumples.
yeah, the little unevenness of the snow.
The snow should be a little bit uneven. A little bit. I have some sketching to do here with a chalk pencil, so I don't want to go too light. I'll be adding the highlights in a little later.
Yep.
In the deepest shadows, I'm just creating a middle range of snow. Grab a little bit of my glazing liquid to improve flow. And you can see this next layer just makes the canvas look much more finished. Bounce, 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 bounce. So when I'm bouncing, the brush is connecting and releasing from the canvas. So I'm just going along, kind of bouncing it along. A little bit bluer down here in this corner. Again, this is just the beginning.
This is just the
Just the
beginning.
beginning.
We've only yet begun our journey together.
We've only just begun. Get a little bit of burnt sienna over to my phthalo blue. Make this kind of dark gray. There's so much color to the snow because snow is very reflective. So when it has these kinds of hues and everything, it tells you what time of day it is. It tells you a little bit about what's going on with the sky. It informs more than just the ground. There we go. Look at that. We just laid another blanket of snow
Yeah.
on this. Let's rinse out this brush. The number 8 Raphael d'Artagnan brush. Put that to the side. Sure, I'm looking at a number 8. I am looking at a number 8. Now I'm going to dry this with my hair dryer thoroughly. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you what we do next. So when I work on this tree a little bit, I'm going to take my number 6 Raphael sepia round, and I'm going to get just a little bit of my burnt sienna, glazing liquid if I need it, and I'm going to come up some of my branches with this like brown, just so that it's got a slightly different hue than the trees around it. That's a subtle thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it would bug me if it didn't. Bug me so much.
Mm-hmm.
This also helps pull this tree forward in front of all these background little branches and trees and twigs. That looks pretty good. I might come here and add a little bit to this one right here. That one off. A little bit. And then we'll add some here. Just a little bit of extra.
Extra.
Giving ourselves some extra. Just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Might kind of just bring some little twiggy little bits here. Dancing it through. They're dark, but again, it's just that next layer of paint that makes things feel like they're finished.
Just to dance around.
Yeah, a lot of times when people are looking at your painting, they're looking to see that you spent time with it. Even when you go very, very quickly and maybe you do something that's very immediate and fresh, the time that you spent with it is the work and effort to learn those skills beforehand. But how the viewer will see it is that you, as the artist, spent time with your work. This one bugs me. And you want to make it look like you spent nice time with your work. There we go. That looks nice. All right, let's call that a step because that's finished out that background in a really, really nice way.
Mm-hmm.
I will hit it with a hairdryer real quick just to make sure as I'm painting around I don't mess anything up. So let's dry it and come back and I'll show you what we do next. Now I'm going to come to a couple inches from the bottom and I'm going to give myself a little bit of a chalk line coming over towards the right. And then another little kind of converging line. Where this sort of converges, I want to bring up a big trunk. Might be kind of hard to see up there. But what's nice is that knowing how wide it is down here
Yeah.
helps us know how wide it is up there. So see, this is quite a substantial little tree going up. Crosses in front of all of our other trees. The other thing I want to do in this tree, maybe this is too steep of a, I want to add a little bit of a hole to that tree. So I've let myself know where that tree is. And then right here, kind of coming back from this and towards the right, I'm going to add a little bit of a line. This will be kind of like some bushes. Bushes.
Bushes? Shrubbery?
Bushes. Shrubberies.
Must have them.
Kind of coming up. A little bit this way. So we're planting two fairly large trees in the park. Large trees, my friend, in the park. And the basis of these trees is going to be burnt sienna and Mars black. And I'm going to use my number 6 round to paint them in. So I can put my little hole back. Bring a little bit of it down to just imply that there's something happening under the ground. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to move to a bigger brush, and here's why. I'm going to work really hard to use this brush to paint in this tree, and it's better for smaller branches. I'm going to use this brush, the number 6 Isabey Isacryl. It's just a slightly bigger round. Get it wet. Sometimes you want to size your brush up or size your brush down for the painting that you're doing. This is going to make much faster work.
Oh, yeah, that does.
One of the things I see beginners do is choose too small of a brush. And painting takes them so long they become just exhausted. Right? Or they use too big of a brush and they become frustrated because the painting is too challenging to get the techniques. So knowing when your brush needs to be bigger or smaller is a big part of what you're doing. Now right here, I'm going to come in and I'm just going to grab some green, a little bit of brown, and I'm going to just...
Oh, wow.
Start to put in what is happening here. There's a lot happening here. This is just the beginning. A little more brown. We'll be putting some snow back there. All right, so this is kind of coming through there. We'll be adding twigs and all kinds of dead wood and twigs and stuff happening coming out of that. We'll pop some snow back in there. It'll be so nice. I'm gonna rinse out. Wipe my brush off because it's a round brush. When you rinse off your brush, if it's wet, all the drops will come down and then they drop on your painting and it's super annoying. Grab a little bit of glazing liquid just to improve the flow off my brush. There we go. Gosh, we're doing really good, guys.
Oh, I like how that comes together.
Yeah, it just creates a nice little park area. I'm gonna bring that into the tree, maybe thicken up the trunk a little bit so the tree looks like it could hold up what's here. And then I'm going to go back into my green again. And then I'll come here and very carefully tap that up and down. Push, 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 push. These are like these bushes that are over here.
Uh-huh.
So I'll round that out. And a lot of this will start to take shape when we put snow on it.
Hmm. The snowy.
We'll want to add browns and a little bit of value and everything just to make that more interesting. Rinse that out. Now I can pick up the brush that I felt was too small.
Ah.
Now I can do that. And I'm going to grab a little bit of my black and my brown together. I'm going to come off here with a branch and then a branch. I'll just come along that branch because it's going the trajectory I want it to go.
Yeah.
There.
Trying to catch some of that from the other side, maybe.
Am I leaving?
No, you're good. It's just really dark, so sometimes it's.
Yeah, it is dark. We do the dark trees to begin with. Because we're going to work from the darkest values up. That's what we're going to do. Now, while I'm here, I get some of my black. Actually, let's call this a step and dry everything because that's a good place to get.
Okay.
Get this far. Make dark blobby tree shape. Dark blobby tree shape.
Yep.
Bushy shape. Ground plant stuff.
Seems good.
Seems good, right? Yep. Okay. When we come back, I'll show you what we do next, but let's dry everything first. All right, so I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing really well. And I'm going to grab a number 1 Princeton Select liner. Go ahead and get some water on it and come over and pick up a little bit of my black paint. I could use the fluid acrylic if I needed to. And then we're going to make some twigs and things coming up from this. Add little leaf kind of moments there. Just little twiggies. That's relaxing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then as I go, every once in a while, I'll put in a little leaf. little just touches of the brush. That's going to help those feel like something that had been blooming or had greenery to it.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of these to do. We've got to do these all the way to the trunk. So it's a bit of work. But that's okay. That's
Yeah,
what we
just
showed up today to do.
yeah, just put them grow the little grasses, the undergrowth.
Take a little bit of glazing liquid over here, just making sure that the flow is going off my brush nicely. Try to be like random and
Yeah.
creative and stuff with your. Like I might bring one down. You just got this. You just the little leaves,
Yeah.
just a little bit. Something going back across the other way. I'm trying to make sure that I don't just all aim everything, grow everything the same way.
Sure. Just kind of make it all
Mm-hmm.
wibbledy wobbledy.
Yeah. As they get here, they might be a little bit shorter. And we're going to have a bench here. So you don't have to do the best of your life right here.
Right.
Okay?
It's just gonna be
It's a good place to practice. It's a good place to work on your technique. If you're unsure of the technique, you can work on it here first because it's going to be covered with a red bench. So if you're not happy with it, it'll get covered up.
that makes
But right now we're just painting things in a layering process. So we're just painting the layers as they go forward, the objects in a layered way as they go forward.
just little
Little leaves.
something's there growing
Little
in there.
something somethings that had grown but, are now part of the deadfall.
Right.
That's a nice little. But again, I'm gonna have a bench over it, so I don't have to worry about it so much. I can experiment and be playful. If it doesn't work out, I don't have to worry. Look at us go.
It's just coming right in there.
Coming right in. Come back over here and just make sure this has got nice angling. Looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Little row of something. I'm come back here. This one is much more dense. I'm gonna come in here and just a lot more kind of nestled together. Okay, when we have that in, we're going to want to dry everything, and when we come back, I'll show you what we do next. Now I want to come and put some snow back in here and kind of break up this ground and like paint around my little stems and make this more snowy brambly. So let's start with a little bit of our blue, our burnt sienna, a little bit of white. Oh, and I'm using a number 6 Raphael d'Artagnan. I just wanted a smaller brush so that I could paint into this a little bit easier. Breaking up the line, you know what I'm saying? I'm finding little spots and painting between the little twigs. And come and get a little brown, a little black and brown. Making little touches, breaking, kind of like camouflaging. I can always go back into my blue and my white. I haven't rinsed my brush because it's good for, you know, we're going to put a little snow up that tree a bit. We're going to have a bench in front of it, so we don't have to be too worried.
Right.
Get a little more white on here. Just some difference in the little snows. Rinse out. Kind of take that in for a second. And then I'm going to take my Cad yellow and my Cad red. And a little of my burnt sienna.
Oh yeah, just adds a little highlight to them.
Just some. We've got this. We're just painting the little steps at a time. Not getting overwhelmed by the complete picture. We're breaking it down into bite-sized bits.
Right.
Bite-sized painting sessions, bite-sized bits.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we take rests, we stretch, we look at our painting, consider how we like it. It's a little bit brighter than I wanted, so I'm going to knock that back a bit. And blend around some, so there's just now come back into my white and blue. Which, you know, my blue has a little bit of that burnt sienna in there.
Mm-hmm.
And make sure that this feels snowy. Make sure it feels very, very snowy. Get a little bit of my snow color here. I'm taking my number 6 round sepia. And again, we're going to have a bench there, so it doesn't have to be the best of your life. Okay, let's move on to this tree. I'm going to start my tree with my, let's actually call that a step. We'll have the tree be a different step. Let's try it and call that a step, because that was a lot of little bits of work. And we're going to be focusing on this tree now, so this will be its own little segment, its own little moment. And we'll come back and do the tree, which will be lovely. So I'll see you in a second. Let's dry our canvases and meet back here. Now I'm going to take my chalk pencil and put back in my placement of my tree knot. Make a nice long one here. So this will be, it's not like a big hole, but it's going to be kind of a knot that's happening there. And that's, I need to know where that is so I know I'm going to be highlighting this side and darkening the center. Okay, so our tree mix is burnt sienna and Mars black. And a little bit of our orange from over here. My brush is too wet. Watch for your brush to be too wet. These brushes can get too wet, which is why I have a towel in my lap and why I'm constantly highlighting them. Just little short strokes. I'm using my number 6 Raphael d'Otny. I'm going to just start building up tree. Little going back into the brown and black. Just starting to build up the trunk. Trees, like snow, are pretty darn colorful.
Wow, that tree really came together.
Yeah, it's gonna grow up real nice. A little more yellow. A bit of white. Hit that side of the stump. And let's hit this edge of it. Really doesn't take too much to create the shading for that. A little more brown. Short brush strokes. A little more brown and black. I might grab some just black along this little edge here. A little bit darker down at the base. Paint your tree. A little more black. Bring this a little white over here. And bring it back into my brown and black mixture. Just dancing around, highlighting the bark, just really painting the tree. Nice how that all comes in.
Mm-hmm.
This makes a nice little tree that can sit behind our little log here. Now I'm going to rinse this out because we know we're going to have a lantern later.
Right.
We're going to take a little bit of our Cad Red and our Cad Yellow. Come along here. Just warm the edge of that tree. Yeah, we're just warming the edge of that tree. I'm going to grab a little bit of this and I'm going to come on this little inside edge. And warm a little bit of that little opening. Short little marks here. Light, kind of catching the tree. Catching the tree. And that's going over really, really well.
I like that a lot. Really, really do.
Now I want to get a little black on my brush. I'm going to come in here. Sure that feels a little bit like got some shading to it. Just that edge there. Oh, look at us. We just painted the tree, didn't we?
Yeah, I really like how dimensional it became.
Yeah, that's the fun part of it, I think. Just grabbing some brown. So down here it's still got some.
It's got dimensionality.
And personality. Okay, I'm fine. All right, let's dry our tree and come back. I'll show you what we do next. So between this last step and this step, I ended up having to take a call and I walked away from my paint palette without putting the lid on it. This particular paint palette has a lid so I can keep my paint fresh when I'm not there, but I left it unlidded and the call went longer than I expected, which is also a good time if you're like feeling it physically about now in the painting to take breaks. It's a good time between now or the next step to make sure you take a physical break for yourself. But I put the paint back out. It's still Mars Black, Burnt Sienna, Phthalo Green, Cad Yellow Medium, Cad Red Medium, Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue, Burnt Sienna, Mars Black. In the center here, I have Titanium White, and I'm going to put a little more glazing liquid into the mix. So sometimes that happens. Sometimes when you're painting, you get interrupted. Your studio, like if you've got a phone in your studio, you might get interrupted. It's important to remember to put the lid back on. But we've been painting for a while, and sometimes it's nice to put out fresh paint anyways. So, that's true as well. All right, I'm going to start with a number 4 Raphael d'Artagnan round. I just want a tiny little round. And come here. And I'm going to grab a little bit of my Burnt Sienna and my Phthalo Green and a smidge of some Cad Yellow. And right here towards the front, I'm going to add this slightly brighter green. It's just a slight brighter green. Maybe a little bit right here. And then I'm going to get a little brown. I'm going to do little touches of brown here and there in my little bush. A little green back. It's nice if it's got a good, rich depth to it. Rich depth, as you do. Making sure I get good depth. That way when I put some snow on it and little bits of color peek through, right, it will look good underneath. And that's what I'm looking for. I'm going to put that brush to the side. And then I think I'm going to grab a little detail round. And mix a little bit of my Cad Red and my Cad Yellow. And some burnt sienna. Just kind of a bright little color. This is a #1 Raphael Corel brush. And I might put my glasses on so that I can see everything. I find it helps, especially if you're at a stage of life where you need a little vision enhancement, to go ahead and not forget to do that. I'll just come here and paint some of these, this kind of orange brown. Some little twigs and bits. So these have, you know, the darkness of it, but it's also got a little bit of the dried kind of dead wood. I'm just wiggling that there, and I might add a little bit right here. Grab a little bit of black. Sometimes a little bit of a twigness here can help kind of create that sense of roundness of that purpose around there. Now, for the next part, I want all of that to be dry. Dry. All right, so now I'm going to take a #4 Raphael Darjeeling. We used this one earlier, and I'm going to take a little bit of my black over to my brown, and I'm going to make a very dark chocolatey brown, and I'm going to come to the back edge of this tree and start to shade this with a little bit of this dark brown. I'm just kind of going back and forth so that the brushwork is a little bit rough. Making sure that just a little bit of this color is here. Now, if this is small enough to do this area, I might have to switch to my sepias if I'm not getting enough clearance or coverage. A little bit right here coming up. Also on that left-hand side. And then a little bit coming up this branch. Now I'm going to take a little of this brown with a touch of black and bring it over to my Cad Red and my Cad Yellow. And I'm going to come here, start to rough up slightly warmer color. Back into the brown again. So as the tree branch comes up here, it's a little bit darker coming up off the... We'll hint it with a little bit of light, but we're going to be a little more careful with that. I'm going to come up on this branch a bit. Just delicately. Just being very gentle, and I'm keeping the toe of the brush together. If you don't remember, the toe of the brush is the tip of the brush. Or maybe that was the first time you heard that called that.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally reasonable. Take a little bit more of my brown over here and mix a nice amount of yellow, some red, a little more yellow. Get this just on the toe. Just brush that back into the tree. We're going to have a nice light source here, so we want our tree to be lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Just wiggling that in so that there's rough marks for like the way that bark would be. Now we're starting to get a little form and shape to our little tree here. Just taking that up and getting that rounded out. Now that's looking pretty good, but I have a
Mm-hmm.
little more I want to do to it, and I'll need it to be dry to do that. So let's dry everything with our hair dryer. And if you haven't taken a break yet, this is a good time to make sure you've stretched your body, that you're just paying attention to your needs. Are you thirsty or hungry? Do you need anything?
Yeah.
Because remember, when we paint, we lose track of time. So it's just important to do that. So if you haven't already taken a break, just a gentle reminder, it might be a good time to do so. But regardless, come right back to this easel, and when we meet up, I'm going to show you what you do next. So I'm going to want to come here with my number 6 Raphael Sepia, and I'm going to grab some of my Cad Red and my Cad Yellow, make a very bright kind of orange here. I'm going to come on the edge of my little tree. Just working it up there.
Just adding some texture to the tree.
A little texture and a little warmth to it so that the light feels like it's really, really picking up on the tree here. Just really playing with the value.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit darker. I'll come up with a sharper brush. Highlight that right there, pulling that little tree branch out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of pulling this up here. Looking pretty good. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my white over to this mix.
Mm-hmm.
I'm along this little outer edge. Bring that branch down a little bit into the tree. Right there. Get a little highlight there. Come in and pull that as a little bit of a highlight right there. Just really thinking about how this tree exists here. Nice little highlight, little glow. It's really sort of standing out from the background of the park. Make sure that this is a nice sharp. It's fun to paint that off there. All right. So we don't have to dry it before the next step, but you can if you want to, but we're going to go on to another step here. Now we're going to put a little snow on top of the bush. And so I'm going to grab a little bit of my burnt sienna and my ultramarine blue. Pull some white over here. So it's just a little bit of a gray blue.
Ooh, that's very nice.
And just very carefully snow on top of the bush. Now the predominant amount of the snow will definitely be at the top, but you will want to put some snow low so it kind of falls down around areas. Just keep touching that. Adding little flakes of snow that come hither, come thither. Maybe a little bluer,
Yeah.
down low. Perhaps a little bluer towards the back. And I'm going to grab a little bit of my white. Let's get a little more of our burnt sienna in it. Get a little bit of my white over to the color I mixed from earlier, which was my Cad yellow, my Cad red, and a little burnt sienna. Now I've added some white to it. There we go. So this is just a little bit warmer. Right there. I have a little bit of it coming back. And now I'm going to take some white over to my mix from earlier. I'm going to let it be a lot lighter. Just a little brighter on the snow back here. And a couple little bright pops of snow down low. Mix in a little bit of my warmer snow. A little more white. A little white here. Come over into my blue-gray. Going to snow around the bush a little bit. There we go. All right. Now this could use a thorough dry. And once that's dry, I will show you what we do next. All right, so we're going to work on this back tree a little bit to make it look a little better so that it's a little more in keeping with the trees that we have up front. I'm going to mix my brown and my black together. Make a very dark color. I'll come to the back of this little tree here. Just start to make sure that these little spots are crisper. Sometimes you'll be painting something and you realize that the context of the new items changes something else in the painting, and you realize this is close enough where I would be seeing it in more of a clear detail.
Clearer detail.
Clearer detail. And we come into a little brown and black. Get a little white involved. Just making little lines that kind of show the little bit of that tree dimensionality. See how that's popping it a little more? This tree a little more designed. There we go. And doesn't that start to look just 1,000% better in the background? And that's what you want. You work on it until the tree speaks to you in calm tones. It should blend into the branches behind it, but you want it to feel like it's its own little tree. I'm going to come here and make a dark gray. I'm going to come under the tree with a dark gray. A couple little darker spots back there. So it has a bit of a shadow and it's more weighted. Okay, so that's all starting to look pretty darn good. We're going to want to dry it thoroughly with our hair dryer, and when we come back, I will show you the fun part that we do next. All right, so for this step, I have printed out from my website. There's a link to this printout in the description below. If you open up the more, you'll see a link to the website directly to this traceable. I had printed it out in a landscape format at 70% scale, and I'm uploading exactly what I had to the website. So your printer may have slightly different settings, but this is what it is to get this format for me. So 70% on landscape from the download. All right. And then I have placed it 1/4 inch, 1 1/4 inch up from the bottom, and just a little bit under or right at 1 inch from the left hand side. So that's where I'm going to place it. Cutting on the inside of that, you'll see this yellow sheet here. This is a product called Ceril paper, and if you press on it, it leaves a mark on the canvas. The product looks like this. Ceril, wax-free Ceril transfer paper. It's for art. And I picked yellow. You could also pick red for this particular composition. And then using low tack tape, I have taped both sheets together and both sheets down to the canvas so that it doesn't move. Once I have it affixed in the appropriate place, I take a sharp pencil and I trace over the lines. Just tracing over the lines. over the whole drawing. If you have trouble remembering where you're at, you can change it to a ballpoint pen with a color in it. But you want at least as hard of a surface as a ballpoint pen. Now I've gone and done some of this so that we wouldn't be just watching me drawing over lines for like forever. But that said, I still want you to see me doing this so you understand the concept of how it's done. I don't mind going over this again more than one time, and the reason for that is it'll just make a stronger line for me to see. Yellow's still pretty hard to see, but I will be able to see it because I've gone over this a little bit extra,
Mm-hmm.
and that will help me. So I really, really want to see where this is. The reason we're doing the traceable is to freehand this in paint. I mean, unless you've got really fantastic perspective skills, because the bench is a very architectural element. You know, the lines sort of have to go the right way. It's easier to work this out as a drawing on paper and then transfer it on. I'll come over here and come down. There's the little lamppost. So the lamppost and the bench and the light cast by the lamppost, that's the subject of this painting.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole reason we do the painting, is to tell the story of the lamppost and the bench, because they invite you to come sit. And that's what you're looking for. Okay, when you're all done, you want to carefully remove the taped on image. And what you should have is very faint lines. Very faint lines. And I'll remove I made a little mark on my corner here so that I could make sure that I had it. Made a little line here at the 1 1/4 mark, and then I made another one here with my T-square.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I was able to like square up. So I made the line here, and then I made the line here. And that let me square up the corner of that traceable. Those are just some notes or tips on the traceable. But overall, you just want the bench to go a little bit past the tree and be starting about the midway point in the bushes. So that's nice scale. And then the lantern kind of comes up here, sort of directly below our little yellow light area. So it's kind of nice, these two sort of playing against each other a little bit. All right. We're going to need some glasses, and when we come back, we're going to paint this in. I'm going to take a number 1 Raphael Corel round. I'm just looking for a small detail round. I'll go ahead and get some glazing liquid on here just to improve the flow of the paint, so that when I'm brushing it on the canvas, it flows off my brush nicely. I'm just getting my Mars black. I'm going to come here very carefully, make a black line, and one kind of to the inside. I will be coming in here filling this in with white. I'm just going to paint this whole thing in.
Paint that little lines in.
Just paint that little area in with black. I'll be adding snow and highlights to help reveal this against the dark background. Just trying to keep everything as straight as possible so it looks man-made. Not too artisanal this time. And this is sort of built out a little bit. And just do some symmetry
Yeah.
to the degree that you can handle the symmetry.
You can't handle the symmetry.
It's real easy to get it into your head that it has to be super perfect, but it just has to be visually acceptable to the eye. That's all you've got to get in.
Like, we don't know how many bikes have been run into this pole, you know, how many, accidental football tackles have happened,
Have happened to this pole. Is that what you're
roller
saying?
skaters that have come by and bonked into it. Like, this thing's been here a while.
I'm
It's
going to
not
rinse
symmetrical.
out and grab a little bit of white. I'm adding my glazing liquid again to improve the flow of the paint because, we're painting over these long painting sessions and the paint can thicken up on us. And I'm going to go ahead and paint the inside of this white. That's going to help me paint the glow in here.
It's lived a full lamp life.
It's lived a full lamp life. That is a true story. That is the true story here. I can always come back and add little black bars back in. It won't hurt me. And I'm going to kind of come up along this little edge here. Add a little white. Around this little side. Just a little bit of a highlight there. A little bit across that top there. A little bit across that top there. So it's just a little bit of a hint of what is going on.
Right.
So we don't lose it. You can always come back with your black and trim that little highlight down a little bit. See how I'm doing?
I do.
It's not as thick. It's just a hair fine one. Sometimes when we can't freehand a fine enough line, we can come back and paint it back out. All right, now I'm going to come here and grab some black again. And get it thinned with my glazing liquid. And I'm going to come here and just as carefully as I can without erasing all of my yellow lines with my hand. Still use the reference to know what you're looking at. This is a fussy bit of kit.
Pussy.
Fussy is it. The small brush is keeping me from rushing, because I don't want to rush through this next part. Doesn't have to be, we're not making an architectural illustration. We just want to make sure that in our painting, our construction is good enough that our bench feels like it's sturdy to sit in. I like the swoop and flow of the bench quite a lot. All right, a little bit on the inside here. Just putting in the black wrought iron first. Now over here, this side is a little bit smaller and a little bit in perspective to the first side. That's why there's a little difference, just to make it feel like this side of the bench is further away. Come to the back here. I'm rinsing out. And I'm going to take a little of my red. And I'm going to get a smidge of my phthalo blue into it. It's going to make kind of a dark brick color. I'm going to come along here. Stroke a little bit of that along there. A little bit right here. Get a little bit of a more red. It's still a little bit toned. Front edge of the bench. Very carefully coming along here. Again, it's just a little bit lighter, but still not our brightest red. Steady my hand as much as possible. And I'm going to make little downward slats. This part's a little bit fussy too.
That's okay. Sometimes it takes some fuss to get it right.
Sometimes it takes a little fuss. I'm trying to leave little spacing between these little posts And the reason for that is I'm going to come back with, again, a little white and blue to show that there's light coming through the little slats. But I don't want to lose my little lineup that I've worked very hard to put in. It's very slowly coming across here. Building the bench slowly. Little of the blue, little of the red.
It can be a little nerve-wracking to paint over the stuff you just painted.
It can be. It can be a little bit stressful. My trick is just to go slow, take your time. You can put any lines or any information back in because this is acrylic paint. This is one of the areas which acrylic paint makes itself, easier. The slats over here are just a little larger and they have a little more space showing through them than the ones that are furthest from us. Kind of improve the flow of the paint. Just painting this down. I know it's like kind of a slow, dogged process.
Just it's getting those in there. You just got to
But
paint.
if we want a lovely bench, we got to slow down and paint a lovely bench.
You're just leaving a little bit of background peeking through between the bench.
Little bit, just so I know where to put it in later.
Gotcha.
Gives me little hints. Little hints that I need.
And those layers really build up and make it very complex.
Yeah, when we come back through here, this bench is going to feel like snow has just hit it, lights glowing through it, there's a shadow cast underneath it. We are going to be super, super happy with it. We're going to get a little bit more of our blue into our Cad Red. Kind of a dark color. A little more red than that. And you can kind of see coming in the bench is just taking shape even in the underpainting. The lantern's taken shape, even in the underpainting. Look at us. We've got the
Wow.
underpainting of a bench and a lantern just perfectly set in there. They have nice scale in relationship to the objects. I'm liking it. Let's dry everything, and when we come back, I will show you what we do next. All right, so we're going to want to come in here and work a little bit on our light. I'm going to come back with a little bit of black. That doesn't look too terrible. And I'm going to take some
Not at all.
orange, bright orange. I'll be mixing that in with my black a little bit. Right underneath here, go ahead and paint in a little bit of this like orange black. And we're going to come underneath here. Let's get a little of our yellow, smidge with our red. And again, if you paint out your black bars, don't worry, you can put them back in very easily. Have a little bit of the red there. Shade the outer edges of that lantern a bit. And grab some of my red and a little glaze. Just a little bit of a red glow. I'm using the glazing liquid to like really have it be transparent.
I really like how that's coming in.
I'm gonna get a little more transparent orange. A little bit on the front of the lantern. Grab a little bit of my orange. I'm gonna come here.
By taking some of that lamp light color and putting it on the tree, you kind of bring the light over there, huh?
Yeah, we're gonna bring a little light to the tree. Just a little light, little yellow. Orange just a little bit to that tree. A little more yellow. Painting in that little light. I'm going to grab some of my ultramarine blue over towards my titanium white. I don't mind if a little brown is in it to tone it. That brown from underneath comes in here and tones. Like a little bit of a snow color. Snow on the lantern. If I need to, I can always come back and
Just give it a little more contrast.
yeah, crisp up some edges there. So the snow looks like it's on there, but it looks crisp. Take some white. And we'll put out some fresh white. My white feels stiff to me.
Got a little sticky.
Got a little sticky, a little stiff. So I'm going to put out some just fresh white. I don't want to be playing against it.
Although that's kind of nice when you want to add a little impasto.
Yeah. If I want to add a little impasto, that's great, but I'm not trying to add impasto.
That was inadvertent impasto.
Inadvertent impasto. Okay, here we go. Now, there we go. A little bit of a warm center. Let's take a little white over to this. I might add a little white yellow above this and into it.
Sort of blend it in.
And now I'm going to take a little bit of that. Hit here. A little bit of light under the lantern. A little bit of light on top of it. See how that's looking. So what we should have is a nice glowing little lantern happening there.
Oh, yeah, it's nice.
And I can just come and put some back. Some of the structure. And I like that little glow that's like coming out of it. Maybe a little more glow too. Tap, 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 tap. I'm just trying to create a little sense of light radiating out. Trying to like exaggerate the glow.
Exagger glow.
Just a little bit of a glow in the lamp.
That looks awesome.
Doesn't it look good?
Yeah.
A little more red in there. Now the lantern looks like it's got something having a foot there. Okay, let's dry this with the hair dryer. thoroughly and we come back, we will do the bench.
Sounds good.
So now we're going to want to continue on with our little bench. I've got my number one Raphael Corel brush here, and I'm going to take a little of my Phthalo Blue and my Mars Black together. I'm going to make a deep blue black that's really going to register as blacker than black in a way in the canvas. Sometimes you can get away with doing like little tricks like that, make things be darker than they are. I paint this down. Just bring this through here. Sometimes I'll see a little hair in my brush that I've got to clear out.
I saw that. It may have just collected it from someplace.
It collected up. Well, you know, we have cats, so
I was going to say, there's kitties all over the place.
there are kitties, and those kitties will definitely bring some hair to the foreground. You can see that just makes that just richer and darker. Then I'm going to come under here. Fine line right there. I'll roll this a little bit, and then I'm going to come kind of underneath this little bench board. And then we will a little bit dark where it goes in front of the tree.
That's all right.
Just getting that like beginning of that bench. I'm going to take a little bit of my white over to my blue. There was a little bit of burnt sienna over here.
Right.
Just get some nice kind of background snow color. Just do our best. Steady as hand as we have. Doesn't have to be perfect. Really easy sometimes to feel like everything's got to be perfect, especially in objects that are as structural as this is.
Right.
But like so much else that we have, our eyes really finish the painting for us. So we have some shadow to some light showing through. And I'm going to take a little bit of my Cad yellow and my Cad red together. Make kind of a yellow orange. Well, yeah, actually a red orange. And come here. Add some little highlighting. That's right here. I'm getting more into the red as I'm going. Just painting it in a little bit redder there. This side of the bench is a little warmer because it's closer to the light source. Just starting to pull that in.
That's a really crazy when you look at it from above and you can see those color variations really strong. That's amazing.
Just a little more red as I'm coming back. We want the bench to really sit out on the snow. That's why I picked red. I would, you can always do like a neutral bench, but for the drama against a winter scene, I just love the red. Just along that little ridge there. Now darkening the red just a bit. That was the phthalo blue that's darkening that red. And also add a little bit of a darker red so that down low on a little bench. A little bit of a shadow kind of coming down a little bit. A little bit more with the yellow in it.
Yeah.
Pull that little handle forward a bit. Now I'm going to take some of my red down towards my black. Maybe even a little more red than that. I'm going to add a bit of a little kind of ridged highlight there. Subtle. Now a little red into the blue. Lots of snow is going to be going over this, so this value will be entirely under. And then I'm going to go into the red for the bench. Come here. A little bit of red right here. Let's get a little white on the brush. A little red. A little highlight there. A little bit right there. A little bit right there. Now I'm going to want to dry everything. Okay, so I am going to put my glasses back on. I'm going to continue on with my number one Corel. And I'm going to take some of my red up here to ultramarine blue. It's not really a purple. It's kind of like a purple gray. I'm going to start to paint some little snow. A little bit on there. And get a little bit of white. A little bit there. Let's add a little to the top of the. We know we're going to have some highlights on there for it to pop.
Yeah. I love how the glow just comes across the bench there.
I like that very much too. A little bit of highlight on that snow. A little bit of highlight there. Maybe a little bit across that. I'm going to rinse out. I've got my cad yellow here, my cad red. I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of white into that mix. A little bit over there.
More of that awesome glow.
Just thinking about it a little bit here. Little thoughts about the glow. Gets to be a little less as it comes over this way. I'm going to take just the smallest amount of ultramarine blue, and I want to mix it into my white to have a very, very light color. Not pure white, but for this landscape, pretty close. Placing little bits of snow on the bench. Just a little bit of snow on the bench.
Awesome.
A little bit of snow across. So if you came here and you saw this bench, you would have to dust off a little bit of snow to sit down.
That looks cool. And not just because it's snow.
And not just because it's snow. Maybe a little bit of something right there. A little bit of something right there. Also kind of creating a little highlight, a little thoughtfulness. All right, let's take a look at that and give that a dry. And when we come back, I will show you what we do next. So now I'm going to want to put a shadow under my bench, and I will go ahead and give that a draw. I'm going to take a chalk pencil, going to come across here. There's a bit of a dip under, kind of comes back. And there's a bit of a dip under there. And so the snow back here can be a little lighter than the snow that's here. Then I've got a shadow coming from the pole. It kind of is widening at the pole. And let's bring another one kind of out towards the right. And then as it comes away from the pole, it widens a little bit. It's a shadow kind of traveling away. And then I will bring one here. This is like a shadow in the bright snow. Then we're going to have from here through here, leaving a little bit of shade snow there. This is going to kind of come around and around. That round. And then come out from here a little bit, maybe a little bit, kind of comes so like there's a little more shading. It's not such a crispy edge. I need it to be super crispy. And then we're going to kind of arc down this way. And up towards here. So we're going to have light, much brighter snow in that central circle with these radial lights going out. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to find a little brush to do it with so that I can handle it. I'm going to give this a try with a number 4 Raphael d'Artagnan round. I'll go ahead and get the brush a little bit wet. And maybe I'll put in another little spot of white over close to my little snow colors so that I have lots of little fresh paint to snow with.
Fresh paint.
Fresh. I'm going to go ahead and take a little of my white over to my blue. Start to mix the beginnings of a lighter color, not my lightest color. Just bring it along here. So it's much lighter than the background. It's not the lightest snow we have, but it's the beginning of the light. Might come here and come underneath.
Just sketching it in.
Very carefully there. I'm also going to come under here and just very carefully. If I have to come back with my sharp brush, I might, but I just want to make sure that the light snow is peeking here. Now my shadow of the snow is the blue and a little bit of burnt sienna. And I can come underneath here. See what I'm doing? And plant a little snow up there. And pass a little shadow down that way. A little more brown and blue together. Making quite a very dark one. Come underneath the bench here.
That kind of makes some shadow.
Just a little bit of a shadow. I might even go into this darker shadow right here. A little more blue, a little more burnt sienna, making a darker shadow. Yeah, that's about how dark I want it. Good. So there's that little peak of white underneath there. That's really going to dramatize our lighting.
Mmm.
A little more white involved. A little bit lighter back here. This is kind of a highlight in the shadow of the snow.
Looks really nice.
Yeah, we just
Adds a little
paint this.
texture and
Yeah. Yeah, we just paint this and we just know what it is. We know that there's snowbanks. They fall on unevenly. There's highlights and shadows even out in the shading of the snow. So it's a shadow, but it's like a highlighted shadow. Maybe come here and add a little more blue. A little brown in it will help gray it out a little bit. There we go. You just bring your brush around. I'm dancing my brush up and down, making little highlights and little shadows in
mm,
the snow.
I like it.
Little highlights and little shadows in the snow.
There's no real, like, you're just kind of brush, 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 however you feel like it.
Yeah, I'm just brushing however I feel like it. I'm just trying to make sure that those brush strokes stay kind of rough.
You're kind of making them bigger as you go out.
Yeah, as they come closer to us, they get a little bigger. They're small in the little shadow. And then once we have that little shadow kind of in, then we can come in here and start with our snow highlight. Just the beginning of one.
Just sort of a lot
Touching
of,
along there.
and you could use a larger brush, but the smaller one makes for a wonderful little texture, to make that, the scale. I
Yeah, I
think the
think
scale is
so,
a
so that the snow feels like rough, like it would be rough.
right.
So we still have lots of room for warmth in the snow when we cast a little light down on from the lamp and when we do white in the snow. So we're leaving lots and lots of little room. We recognize that this is like the bench, like the bush, everything else here requires thoughtful painting.
Mm.
And we have time for that. We have time to be thoughtful. Coming along this little edge, making it a little bit nicer. You gotta put it all the way around. We're circling.
Mm. That just takes a little bit of time. Just.
Yeah, we just take our time to circle. Now, right here, I'm going to just as gently as I can paint around my light post. I use the edge of the brush to have control over what it does, and that keeps me from overpainting what I've got.
Yeah.
Slowing down, just using the toe edge of the brush. Oh, and now how I just love it.
Oh,
The
yeah.
light coming in is just what makes it.
It does. It really finishes it off. It grounds the image. It's really, I like it a lot.
Yeah, the whole thing just to make this wonderful little pattern of light. But sometimes you do a whole painting just to tell a little story.
Yep.
This looks like a park by where I live. It's like I could run into this park. I feel like
Like walk a block.
find a park like this. Maybe not the red bench. Those are special to find. And whenever you find like a red bench or a red lamppost in winter, just be sure and photograph that for yourself. A little more blue in there. Back into the off-white. Rinse out. Let's call that a step and give that a little bit of a dry and come back. We'll talk about the highlights and drama that we put out into the snow.
Okay.
Now I'm looking at this line here of shadow and I'm going to want to continue that over. So I'm going to grab some of my shadow color and I'm going to just apply that
Oh, yeah.
coming back here a little bit. A little there and kind of
Yeah.
curved it around here. There we go. Just a little bit of a
Shadow,
make sure
shadow.
that story is
Yeah.
story I'm trying to tell. Got to make sure the story is the story you're trying to tell. Now I'm going to take a little bit of my cad yellow and a little of my cad red. Grab some white. Maybe a little more yellow.
Oh, that's adding some color to this now.
I'm going to add a little color to the snow. I'm going to wipe off my brush because I don't want to have a lot of water in the mix.
Mm. That's really cool.
Spots out there. We're going to really blend these back in. But we just want a little bit of that color.
Oh, that's cool.
Just a little bit of warmth kind of hidden out there. We had a little bit up here and we had a little bit there, and then we're just making sure that
You
the
can't
way we're telling that color story is.
just a little bit blended in here and there.
Yeah, and kind of concentrated right here.
Gotta balance it between that very soft, blendy blend, so it's like there's a little touch of light. Not a poodle was here.
How would this get to poodle though?
you know, came by and just left a little mark there.
Oh, because yellow snow. Yeah, that is sort of always the worry with doing any yellow snow, isn't it? That I'm just pushing this out so that we have little bits of this color here,
Yeah, it looks like it's a little danced light.
little bits of dance light. And now we're going to get way more into our white paint.
It was danced with light, not sprinkled by puppy.
Get my brush. I'm going to rinse it out a little bit. Because again, we want this to be quite bright here under the lamp.
You don't want any water in it.
I don't want any water in it. I'm going to improve the flow. I'll do it with like the glazing liquid. That way I keep my pigmentation up. I wet my brush every once in a while just to make sure it's not wet. That's the thing about the hog bristles is they're wonderful to paint with, and they do this very expressive painting kind of brushstroke. But you got to watch their water loads. Starting to like improve the lighting conditions. And now the light's peeking through the snow, or reflected in little parts of the snow. There's still, this isn't pure white, there's still a little blue. Just, you can see like a hint of it getting picked up. Just dance that around. We've got time. Leaving some blue that peeks through. Come here and, oh, so carefully. See where the yellows is sort of kind of showing through. And then I'm going to, as carefully as I can, paint this inside. I'm going to actually switch over to my little pointy brush because this is just a little too fluffy. I'll just use this here to make sure that that light is sort of showing through. And we'll come in, we'll kind of blend the shadow back a little bit back here so it's a little more in shadow, but this is still our darker shadow. I'm going to play with that. Maybe add a little corner. A little bit around the corner. A little bit around the corner, my friend.
Can see it. Looks nice.
With my little detail brush here and say, oh no. Maybe I'll just make zero myself and come around this side with my little detail brush. That way I'm just not trying to take a bigger brush and get around the little elements. Sometimes I can go ahead and just make things easier on myself. A little bit on that corner. Looks nice. It's just capturing that light in the snow.
Yeah, it does a great job.
It really does. This whole thing is just a great way to light up all around the lamp. Rinse out and I towel off. Just want to feel that we see the light hitting the snow here.
Yeah.
And it also helps set the time of day. The way our light is and the way that the sky is back here. It sets our time of day. Well, it just got bright, bright, bright.
Oh, it did.
All right, now I'm going to take a little bit of my ultramarine blue and my burnt sienna and phthalo blue. I mean, not phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, titanium white. Just kind of very carefully. Yeah, there we go, where we have a slightly darker shadow, but there's still just shade back there. Guys, Unless you see something obvious, John, I feel like
No, this is
I am
great.
pretty darn happy is where I'm at. Now, I'm going to do something I don't generally do. Actually, no, I think I'm going to sign it in black. I don't want to sign it in red because it would pull the thing down here, and I just really want it to be just the painting that I've done. If that makes sense. I don't want to change that up significantly. So I'm going to take a little bit of my glazing liquid over to my black and blue. Get a nice color. We're going to come here in the corner. Looking at this now, I feel like I made the exact right decision. Glad I trusted my instincts there.
That looks so good.
Because this is just definitely keeping this corner from being a distraction to the whole painting. But the signature is legible. Okay. Wow. Look at what we did.
That's amazing.
We nailed it. We just made a beautiful winter park scene. This is fantastic. When we come back, I'll tell you what we do next. So now that we've completed this, the next thing I want to do is I'd love to see your version. A great place that you can share this is in the Art Sherpa official group on Facebook. You can come by and bring your version by. It's a closed, curated group. You just answer 3 little questions that prove you're human, and boom, you're in. And you can share my tutorials there, and you will find that it's an incredibly supportive, kind, loving, encouraging space. So it's a great place to be on a painting journey in. John, did you just love today?
I love it. This is fantastic.
This was a big one. This was a big landscape, but you guys like have been really requesting a winter scene with a lantern and a bench. And I feel like I answered that question fairly well. I think we painted a winter scene in a park with a bench and a lamppost.
Yeah.
Beautiful glow and fun lighting to paint. Like everything about this is fun. It's inviting. Like I would want to come and sit on this bench and observe the snow falling would be just perfect. And I think this winter moment is just waiting to be painted and discovered. So thank you so much for spending your time with me painting this. You did a great job just taking it on and just going for it. Like right there, there's really nothing to do but for you to be good to yourselves, be good to each other. And I will see you at an easel real soon. Bye bye.